This episode of the Pu'u Muay Thai podcast is brought to you by pmtlifestyle.com, Authentic Muay Thai Lifestyle by Pu'u. Definitely go check out the website at pmtlifestyle.com for some awesome lifestyle merchandise. That's for those of you out there either involved in Muay Thai, looking at getting involved in Muay Thai, and embrace a healthier lifestyle to live the life of Nak Muay. Go check it out. So Wadi Kop, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pu'u Muay Thai podcast. All right, guys. Today we have Coach Josh again here with us. How you doing today, bro?
Very well. What about you?
Good. Just enjoying the Sunday.
Sunday.
Just had some blenders and stuff, hanging out. Yeah, so we were going through, I had Kevin on yesterday, talked a little bit about his 30 years of martial arts and stuff too, and wanted to get together and record some stuff in relationship to like Pu'u Muay Thai, because I get a lot of questions from people, like, and things it's funny, it's for the reason we have some of the pictures on the wall at the academy, is we have people that have asked me like,
have you fought?
yeah, have you ever fought before?
Which is a legitimate question because a lot of coaches and whatnot, like a number of them might never have had a fight. And they're going to be telling you about shit, their theory or their philosophy.
Yeah, and you know, that's a whole nother conversation. Like if somebody's never fought before, can they coach fighters? That's a whole nother like thing, right? There's a couple of successful coaches who never really fought, and they have a lot of experience coaching fighters. There's something to be said for that too. But that's one of those things that always like kill me. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, really so.
Yeah. You know, I think part of it is like Muay Thai, especially here in like Ventura, there's none. So when people ask that, I can understand where it's coming from, because maybe they just enrolled like, hey, they looked up Muay Thai Academy and started training with us. Like, oh, I want to train Muay Thai, and then they start asking questions later once they start learning more about it. So I'm pretty sure I ended up busting one of our students on Reddit, actually, like asking questions, and I answered it. I forget what it was, but it was like in pertaining to like training, and I was like 99% sure it was one of our students because the question they're asking, and I answered it, and it says on the like gym owner, it has my name and stuff on like Reddit. I thought it was pretty funny because there's probably like, oh shit.
That's comical.
Yeah. How's this looking? Okay?
Yeah, we're good on level.
So, yeah, Josh has helped me out with some of the mixing for the podcast and stuff as well, make them sound a little bit better, which I'm grateful for. So you've been doing sound stuff for how long now?
12 years I've been studying it, and I had like a mentor and all that for a long time, classes, different coaches. Very little of it is formal though.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of that stuff when I first started training.
For sure.
Right.
That was my Muay Thai.
Yeah, for a while. That was your discipline that you did.
Yeah, I'm still doing it, low key.
So I know I was talking to you, and I was like, hey, you know, with a lot of these questions that came out, since you were essentially saw me from like day one, because you're my brother.
Before day one,
before day one, yeah. And building into becoming like martial arts instructor, fighter, athlete, all that stuff that's entailed with running an academy, business owner. I thought you'd be a good person to come on and bounce some stuff off of because of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I guess one of the most common questions people have is like, you know, I'm sure people have asked you this, is like, hey, how did you get started?
Oh, for sure, the beginning of it. See, I guess that's where I come in, because I remember from day one, that'd be West Coast Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, where I started at?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started off at West Coast Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Well, if you go back even further than that, what would we do, like a boxing class at like an LA Fitness place, something like that?
I don't know that I would count that.
No.
I'd say that West Coast is where you started.
Yeah. I started training there with Fred, rest in peace, Fred Lemus.
Yeah.
And he was pretty young then too. I didn't really know the experience level, and it was pretty funny actually. Like I remember Googling like Muay Thai gyms nearby because I'd seen like a lot of martial arts online. I was looking up stuff. This is when YouTube wasn't as big as it was now. Obviously,
barely getting started.
Yeah, it was just like really starting to pick up. That was what, 2007 or 2006, I think, is when I first started looking at this kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, I want to find a martial art that I can do. Saved up a bunch of money out of high school working, and was like, hey, I want to go to martial arts. That's something I want to do.
It's something we wanted to do since we're little.
Kids.
We weren't allowed to do it because of our parents.
Yeah, our parents said no. Or our dad specifically said no.
Which actually, you know, looking at it now, would have been probably the best thing that he could have done. And he's like, no, here's a surfboard. You're going to have a bunch of terrible role models.
You know, it's funny, like, shout out to, like, was it Adam Veers, you know?
Yeah, he was really, really talented.
Yeah, he's super talented surfer here in the area, if anybody knows him. I mean, you know what? Are you following him on Instagram?
I'm not sure if I am or not.
I want to find him and go find him and get him on this.
Yeah.
I guess I have to look him up after this. Should tag him in it.
Yeah.
And what was it? Bobby Martinez. He was not like really bad influence. He was younger than Adam.
Yeah, he was a really talented, driven guy. So
yeah.
That was a good influence, probably.
Like, you know, I know we had a few other surfer guys that were working at our dad's shop. That's another conversation we could talk about.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, he threw a surfboard in our hands, and you were more into surfing than I was.
Yeah, I got dragged initially kicking and screaming, but after I did that Dave Smith Surf Academy, I did a couple summers.
Yeah, it's in Santa Barbara, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Rincon is where I was at originally.
Yeah.
But that got me into it for sure. I'm grateful for that experience, but yeah.
I remember I didn't. It was like I got forced into doing it, and I did it like once. Like actually, like did the surf camp. After that, I just hung out on the beach essentially.
Yeah, it wasn't for you per se.
No, definitely not. And our cousin Devin was doing karate, and our cousin Krista too.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do like it was Kempo karate back then. Seeing Karate Kid and like Ninja Turtles, shit like that. So going into martial arts, you know, I had that money saved up. I looked up like Muay Thai specifically because I looked up all these YouTube videos. There wasn't a whole lot of them, but I was like, I think I want to do Muay Thai. It looks fucking badass. It looks effective.
Yeah.
So, hey, punch, kick, knee, elbow, clinching. I downloaded a bunch of like torrents of like highlight videos back then. That was before they had them on YouTube.
Yeah,
no one was uploading. Yeah, I downloaded a bunch, put them onto like DVDs so I could watch them and stuff like that.
Intriguing. I didn't know that.
So I'd get it was like Ramon Deckers, Koban, and all these other guys. I downloaded all the stuff on like I can't even remember the name of the torrent website. I got it from back then, but that's why I was scraping them together then because it wasn't on YouTube. Now it's so easy to access that shit.
Yeah.
Just look it up.
Trippy. So you started at West Coast after you gathered a bunch of videos together?
Well, what ended up happening actually is like they closed. So when I first looked it up, it was like, oh, we're out of business. So I was like, well, fuck. That sucks. I saw the nearest place was like I think at the time was Muay Thai Academy in North Hollywood. There's a couple other places, but I was like, they're all near each other. I'm like, I would go to Muay Thai Academy, but I'm like, obviously I didn't even have my I had my driver's license, but I didn't even have a car. So I got a heavy bag off of like Craigslist or some shit and hung up in our dad's carport and just watched as much Muay Thai as I could. I'm like, okay, I know I can run. I know I can do sit-ups, push-ups, squats, and do what I can imagine would be Muay Thai. And I did that for a couple months. I remember doing that for a couple months, and like I had a couple of our friends who did like karate and kung fu, and so I just like trained with them a little bit. And eventually, like I looked up again. I'm like, hey, okay, I really want to do this. Let's find that place that's down in North Hollywood again. Maybe I could figure out a way to go down there. So I looked up Muay Thai places, and I saw that West Coast Jiu-Jitsu at the time it said, you know, grand reopening. I was like, oh, they moved. So I called them up. I talked to Fred, and he got me to come in for like a trial lesson. It sounded like he was kind of like, yeah, whatever, because they probably get so many calls about people coming in. Showed up. They had like a 1-week trial. I went in the first day on like a Saturday, and I remember throwing up.
Yeah, that's a common rite of passage.
Yeah, I remember throwing up. It was a conditioning day. And I believe the next time I went in, it was like they made me spar. I remember I had like a bloody nose. And I remember crying like to myself like afterwards, like, I suck. Like, yeah, of course you suck. You've never trained before. And, you know, just that kind of like hard start. And I remember like debating like whether I go back, and I came back. And I remember Fred like, "Oh, I didn't think you were gonna come back." That first day though, it was funny. It's funny to note. Shout out to Coach Todd, because he was one of the first people that I sparred with there on that day, and he was actually one of the few people that was actually nice to me. So take that for what you will. And we've been friends ever since. So I showed back up, and he's like, "Oh crap! Like, I didn't think you're gonna be back." And I remember like signing up for like a year package, like where I got my sparring equipment and stuff like that. And we did a smoker a few weeks later, or a few months later. Sorry, not a few weeks. Like, I think it was like 3 or 4 months later. But I just remember like totally trying to envelop everything that I was learning, keep watching, and we weren't even hitting pads then. It was kick shields, heavy bags, and there was and sparring. That was it. I remember the first time Fred held pads for me, it was like on like a Saturday. One of the guys there who did a couple smokers he was holding pads for him, and he held I think he held 2 rounds for me, or 1 round. I remember fucking dying. And did our first smoker like 3 months, 4 months into it, because they had one in house there when smokers were still legal. And then I just totally got hooked to it. I did the smoker because like one of my friend Roy, I think, signed me up on it. Roy Corona.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "Dude, you should do it." And he's like, "I put your name up on it. Just do it." I was like, "All right, let's just do it. Fuck it." So I ran, did as much training as we could, and everything like that too. It was an interesting time. And we did a couple more smokers after that. It's like Kru X's gym and stuff like that too. I remember.
Kru
X, Adjon Rex, rest in peace.
R.I.P. for sure.
Yeah, another person who's passed away in the past like year or 2 years. But I remember them being there. I remember being at his place when it got shut down by the Athletic Commission.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Larry from the State Athletic Commission. If anybody here's in California that's fought on like a pro show, or like when CSAC was sanctioning amateur stuff, you know Larry. He's a loud black guy that was yelling at everybody. And he's very stern, he's very firm. And it would be, quite frank, he's a nice guy. If he hears this, I love you, man, but you're also a dick sometimes. But totally, and everybody will agree with it, and I'm pretty sure he agreed with it. He's like, "I'm doing my job." Yeah, that's part of it. But after a year, they were arranging a trip to Thailand, and we're just training a lot as much as we could, and watching like more and more videos were coming up, more content was coming up online, and they were arranging a trip to Thailand with this guy Noe, who had been over there in the Navy. He was stationed over there for a little bit in Thailand. He's like, "Hey, I know a place we can go to. They'll pick you up, all that stuff." I'm like, "Whoa, totally like, oh crap, okay, let's do it." So I committed to go, but like I barely had enough money to get a plane ticket. I think at the time when it came time to buy the tickets, so I didn't buy my ticket with the group. And I remember talking to our mom. She's like, "No, you really want this. You've been working your butt off to like save up. You have to go."
Yeah.
So
you get that from one parent, but from the other parent is like, "No, you need to buy a car now and get a regular job and do all this stuff that your older brother Josh is doing, even though I ultimately told you to do what the fuck you want." And then,
that came back even more later. That first time he didn't say that. He didn't say not to go. But yeah, I don't think he was really for it because he didn't like me fighting.
Yeah.
He told me, like, I remember talking to him, like, "Oh, I got my ass kicked sparring." He's like, "Well, you want to do it, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, then you should go back." That was, like, a piece of advice he did give me that was, like, encouraging. So, I remember telling our mom, she's like, "Well, I have one of my friends who's a travel agent at AAA. If you guys aren't here in the U.S., AAA is, like, a travel agency, car insurance, all that stuff. But they have, like, ties in with travel agents to get, like, good plane tickets. So we went over there, and she's like, "Okay, what's your budget?" I think I was like, "Hey, I have $1,300. Can we make it happen?" And I think the trip was like a month away, or like 2 months away or something like that. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Okay, well, we can figure it out." So she made some phone calls, and she ended up getting me a flight over there. And funny enough, my layover, which was in Japan, I flew on United.
I flew on United last time when I went to Thailand.
It sucked.
Mine was fine. It was actually nice.
Mine sucked.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. That was 2008. I believe, 2008.
That's 10 years before I.
Before you went. Yeah. So I just remember my friend Roy Corona's flight would connect to mine in Japan, I remember being like so grateful because it's the first time like I've been out of the country by myself. Like first international flight like that. I think the last time I had actually flown was when I was 4 years old when we went to Hawaii. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So I went from being 4 years old and doing like a 6-hour flight to being, 18 years old or 19 years old. I think it was 19. It was right before my 19th birthday. And going over to Thailand and doing like this long 26-hour travel.
Yeah, it's substantial, but it's good for developing as a person.
Yeah, and I remember getting over there and finally getting to we got to Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok, and me and Roy got there and we had to wait for our friends' flights. And there was a phone number for the gym. We tried calling them, it didn't connect, but we didn't have international SIM cards, so I don't know what the fuck we were calling. I remember asking some guy there. Mind the dogs, guys. I was trying to talk to somebody there. If you've never been there before, and you didn't know this, then you wouldn't know that these guys are scammers. They're outside of the gate, right outside of like the international arrivals gate. And he's like, "Oh, I'll call the place for you." And he called. He quote unquote called, and then he's talking, and then he's like, "Oh no, they said they already came. They already left. So I can get you a taxi there for I was like $200." We're like, no, we'll just wait.
Yeah.
So the next thing you know, maybe a half hour later, the guy kept eyeballing us, asking if we wanted to go. We're like, no. And we ran into our friend Noe, who was already there. He had the sign, Noe. That was the happiest moment in my life. I think I still have a picture somewhere of me on super skinny, 18-year-old, super tired and jet lagged. Back then too. So
rolling it back to being at West Coast, you go into your first trip to Thailand when you're almost 19 with Roy and all that. So, what was your experience like in your fight camp? Did you stay at the gym or did you stay at a hotel?
Yeah, we stayed at it was not a hotel, but they had apartments that were next. It was down the street from the gym. Yeah. So we went to the gym. It's called the Pattaya Combat Group.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures from that.
Yeah, and the guy who ran it at the time, this guy named Kru Jonathan, again, rest in peace. Third person, wow. Yeah, third person. And this podcast mentioned, rest in peace. That guy passed away in the ring at a WBC boxing fight.
Damn.
But on that trip, he actually said, hey, if I'm going to die, it's probably going to eventually be in the ring. So I think he kind of knew he was going to end up going down that path.
At least he died doing what he loved, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's an unfortunate scenario for sure. But he ran this gym over there. He had some Thai trainers and stuff too, Thai wife. And there's a bunch of guys from Italy there and Spain. And he had some awesome trainers that were from Sityodtong that worked for him and stuff too. This guy, Kru Tak, he had a really awesome gym. I think he still has one. It's the Cho Na Titong. I think they still have it in Pattaya as well. I went there, and I remember seeing some of the guys training. It was just very intimidating at first. You're like, oh shit, I'm here.
Yeah, of course, these guys are doing it every day.
Yeah, we got there at 2 a.m. in Pattaya. And it's not, if you guys know Pattaya, it's on the outer skirts. It was closer to Sityodtong. Did you go to Sityodtong when you were there, with Travis?
No.
No. So it's you remember where Fairtex is at?
Yeah.
So think about 20 minutes motorbike outside of the city, essentially.
All right.
So it's not super close. So it's not super near the party centers. You can get there, of course. It's outside of there's the main road, the Sukhumvit that goes through there.
Yeah.
I remember getting there at 2 a.m. Seeing the bags, oh shit. And when we got up the next day and just got to training, and I remember seeing a bunch of people, and I didn't really we didn't quite understand the flow. I remember Christian helping us, the owner. It's hey, get on the tire for a little bit if you're not gonna run or jump rope. And I think that's the first time I used a Thai style jump rope. I just remember being fuck.
Wow, you never used one before?
No, we didn't have those. Wow. The quote-unquote weighted jump rope was a big, thick, heavy rope that was weighted in the handles.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing like Thai style, the access to that kind of stuff.
How long did you last on a Thai jump rope back then?
I did the whole thing. I remember my arms burning and getting blisters in my hand. I think they had us do 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Really? Survived 15 minutes already?
Yeah, well, we ran and stuff leading up to it. We made sure we were in shape. We trained very hard before we went.
Yeah.
We were doing for our smokers. Hey, let's prepare for it we would a fight.
Yeah. That was my mindset going to Thailand for the first time, too.
Yeah, because we knew that we would get the most out of training if we did that.
Yeah.
I think the first day, we trained 2 days. I remember the first day in the afternoon, I cramped. Yeah. My calf cramped so bad when I was jumping on the tire, cooling down. And there was a boxing team from Vietnam there, the Olympic boxing team was there.
Yeah.
And this guy, like, I think his name was Lam. He was very nice, and he helped me. He's like, "Oh, cramp." He knew right away. Like, he put my foot in this position. That's when I started learning about what muscle cramps were. Yeah. I didn't know much about them then.
Isn't the typical Thai structure though? It is 2 days. It's one in the morning and then one in the evening.
Yeah, one in the morning, one in the evening, typically, and they vary intensities. Each gym has like a different formula too.
Yeah.
So we went there, we did that, and we were training, and I remember seeing a couple other beasts that were out there. There's this one guy, actually, he had one of his knockouts just went viral. It was an elbow knockout. His name is Matthias Gallo. He was out there, he was 14 at the time, 13 I think, and he was fighting pro. I remember we went to one of his fights at Teppersit Stadium. That was the old stadium that was before Max Muay Thai and stuff was out there.
Yeah.
I want to say it was owned by Fairtex, or they had like heavily invested in it, because they like I would see like Anthony Lin and Mr. Wong, the owner of Fairtex, would be like ringside all the time. They had like a VIP section.
Yeah.
And I just remember, seeing that guy kick his bag. He's like 14. Like, dude, this guy's gonna be fucking good. And he'd been fighting since he was like 9 or something like that, like in Thailand with his family and living over there. And there's people from New Zealand. There's this guy named Tom Lucy that was over there. We met. He was an Olympic rower in the 2008 Athens Olympics. So that summer before, he was in the Olympics, like earlier in the year.
Gotcha. So he had great conditioning.
Yeah, but it was cool to like meet. I didn't know that. We were talking shit about him. We're like, dude, like how are you able to keep up? And then we found out he was an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
But he actually retired that year from rowing because he's from Wales. And he retired because he lost to Canada.
Oh, damn.
He's like, fuck, I lost to Canada on my Olympic break.
You lost to Canada?
Yeah, and they're not known for rowing, bro. Yeah. So I think it was one of those things that he did everything he wanted. He was like 19 or something like that, 20 at the time.
Still wee lad still.
Yeah, so he's like, I'm done with that. And he was doing like training seminars on rowing to make money and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So you met some interesting people out there. How long were you out there on your first trip?
That first trip, I want to say 2.5 weeks only for the first trip. Yeah.
That's bare minimum, by the way, for anybody listening.
Yeah, like if you're gonna go there and like vacation, minimum 10 days. You want to be there minimum 2 weeks, ideally.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go out there and get anything out of the experience, if you want to say just go there, you can go for less, but you're not gonna get much out of it. Yeah, so we met all these awesome people over there, and I remember seeing some of the fights that were over there at the time, and our friend, they had this festival called Loi Krathong that was going on over there at the time. Usually happens in November. If you guys have ever seen, just look it up. Loi, I think Krathong, Loi Krathong. They make these cool little boats, and they put candles on them and set them out in the water and the rivers. And they also have the floating lanterns.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah, you see like thousands, or like hundreds of thousands of floating lanterns in the sky.
Yeah.
And I remember like lighting, like the gym owner like gave us the light, and I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. He's like, yeah, unfortunately, it burns down a lot of homes.
That was gonna be my next question.
I was like, oh fuck, like, I don't want to kill the moment, but also that's harsh reality.
Yeah. Of
a third world country, I guess. So I never did it again after that, because I was just like, shit, I don't want to be responsible for burning down someone's home.
Burning down the house.
Yeah, but if you look at it from like a Buddhist standpoint, they would say, oh, that's their karma.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, but I'm like, I don't want to be part of dishing out that karma.
Same thing with like dogs in that part of the world too. They're just like, if they run a dog over with a car or whatever, they're like, that person was a shitty person in their past life. And
that's why they're a dog. That's why they're a street dog.
Yeah.
So, if you guys don't know, too, there's a big, like, stray dog problem in Thailand also. They're everywhere. Rabbit dogs.
Yep.
So, we went through... just a shout-out, too. If anybody's interested in dog rescue stuff out there, there's a really cool foundation out there called Soy Dog. SOIDOG. They do dog rescue there in Thailand. They adopt dogs out to foreign countries where they can have better care and stuff like that, too. So, definitely go check that out if you guys are listening to this.
So we're training in Thailand.
Back training in Thailand. Yeah, we were training there at Loi Krathong, right? And Roy was like, hey, I asked Christian if he can get us a fight. He's like, you want to? I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. Fuck it. Like, we had like another 10 days on the trip.
Yeah.
We already been training a lot and stuff. Like, so yeah, let's do it. So Christian's like, yeah, I can get you guys a fight. He got us like a little shitty bar fight.
Yeah.
They had like these like bars in Pattaya. It's like, you have washed up fighters there, but he's like, no, I'll make sure you get like a even match, like with somebody who's maybe not training a lot, but maybe they have experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I remember training our butt off. They fucking kill us on pads. I remember it was like, first round, it was like, essentially like, okay, if you're going to fight, they told me two things. Like, okay, you're here for this long. One, you don't know how to clinch, so don't clinch. When you're fighting, don't clinch. I was like, fuck, but I want to learn clinch. Like, I saw them clinching, I wanted to learn it. And, like, I was like, crap, I really want to learn that. And I wanted to be part of those groups. I did a couple clinching sessions, of course, going through it, but there was mostly, like, how to not be in the clinch is what they were going over for me. And then...
Which is interesting considering that is a main staple for your gym now. Isn't it?
Yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah,
like, you know, the heavy clinch aspect of our academy and our curriculum is definitely there now. And that's why I always put, like, emphasis on that for our students. Like, we didn't have that here in the U.S. There wasn't clinch gyms. There wasn't clinch heavy gyms there at the time. You know, needless to say, it's like, you know, when I was training out of an MMA gym, it was more of like a kickboxing program, if anything, you know? Like, I don't even think we really trained elbows or knees that much. You know, it's mostly punches and kicks.
Which is funny because there's no pads on your knees and elbows. Well, in amateur fights, they sometimes do.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, I think it was just more of, like, a lack of experience.
Understanding
of what to do with this kind of stuff. You know, if you guys aren't familiar with Ventura and Oxnard, we're a boxing town. You know, there's a lot of professional boxers that are here. So everybody likes to punch. Everybody likes to, it's like boxing. You know, that's the perception here. So a lot of gyms gravitate towards that or programs.
Or end up at your academy because they were going to train boxing, but they're like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to do this.
Yeah, they want to do Muay Thai instead. I had a couple people like that. So they're going over like how to not be engaged in the clinch at this Thai camp.
Yeah.
And they killed us, like, did essentially cardio death to us on the pads. They fixed stuff too, but then they would like fucking burn us out. Okay, it was like first round, you start off slow, you finish off 10 kicks each leg. All right, second round, you start off 10 kicks each leg, you do the round, and then you finish off 20 kicks each leg. Next round, you start 20 kicks each leg, you finish around with 30 kicks each leg. And you build all the way up to round 5 as you finish off with 50. So it pretty much in the next round, you start 30, finish with 40. Start with 40, finish with 50. And that was the way you did your 5 rounds. And then you do a lot of kick drills and some light technical sparring. And the kick drills on the bags, it's funny, like Coach Todd, shout out to Coach Todd, he remembers still a lot of them. He's like, yeah, these drills, you remember these? I'm like, yeah, man, they're fucking good. You know, simple basic stuff that if you haven't been there, you wouldn't know about. But it really helped develop my kick game, that's for sure. Because I really wanted to learn how to throw strong kicks.
Gotcha. So you're about to do a fight at the shitty bar that you got arranged where you're avoiding the clinch and all that. So how was that like?
I remember first, like, they got us on one of the little bot buses. I forget what they're called in Thai. But it's pretty much a truck that has, like, a welded shell on the back that you can stand in. And I remember having, like, my cup, Thai shorts, and, like,
mouth guard?
A shirt, mouth guard. And I was wearing double mouth guard at the time. Stupid. Lack of experience for sure.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a mouth guard that, like, you can't open your mouth. You have like a hole between it. So and I had a plastic cup too, a McDonald's cup.
Oh wow! Wow, you're feeling lucky, huh?
Yeah. Well, we didn't know.
Yeah.
So we showed up to the stadium. There's like the whole gym's there. Like, remember that Christian, his wife, the trainers were there. Fred was there. The owner of West Coast Jiu-Jitsu, Brian, was there. Noe and like a bunch of other friends that were on the trip were all there to like cheer us on. And I remember getting into the back, and then like they're like, "Okay, where's your cup?" I'm like, "It's right here." And like, "No, you can't wear that." I'm like, "Well, I don't have anything else." Like, "What do you mean I can't have it?" Like, "You need a steel cup."
Yeah.
And they're like, "We'll be right back. We'll find something." So you know, like those like big gray trash cans that you have on like the schoolyard, like cafeteria. So I see this guy's digging through one of them, and out he pulls. There's like gloves and like claw shin guards in there. Out he pulls is a steel cup.
Oh wow!
So if you guys aren't familiar with steel cups, they go up your ass. It's like a thong. It goes over your underwear.
It's a G-string.
It's a G-string. So I didn't know that, but I'm just like, yo, that's not gonna fit. That thing is tiny as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like flat. It's barely like it's like it barely curves at all. So, but I had to fit it on. So one of the old guys and one of the trainers helped shove my junk into there.
Wow.
And I just remember sitting there. It's like on the side of a bar, like some broken mirrors and stuff on the side, and like picnic tables, and they're like throwing out water from like the bar, from the ice from the bar right there, right next to us. And here I am, 19 or almost 19. I have these 2 Thai guys with their hands on my nuts.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is happening right now. And then I think Roy ended up I think he had a titanium cup, and they're like, oh, that's fine. Or I don't know if he borrowed one. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But they put liniment on us, like, and I remember shadow boxing, like on those, they had like a broken mirror to shadow box in, and it's just like really dingy, like low lit. And I remember Roy went to go fight, and I saw him fighting and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on myself now. He looks like he's doing fine. And I remember going in and just like sitting there like on the bench, like with my legs dangling off the table and stuff, and like looking in that broken mirror and just be like, yo, no matter what happens, like, I want to do this for a really long time. Like, that was like one of my moments where I was like, I fucking love this. Like, this is where I want to be right now. You know, I don't want old guys touching my nuts, just be clear. But, you know, like being ready to fight, like warmed up, like he had the liniment on. It smells like freaking menthol if you guys have never smelled it before. Super hot, humid, and in Thailand. I'm like, this is awesome. You know, going from continuation high school.
Yeah.
You know, where I thought I was going to go nowhere to like a year later, all of a sudden I'm in Thailand.
You stepped in like a completely different reality, which is freaking awesome because a lot of people get trapped in that one reality because everybody tells them that's their only option, or they have to look at this one particular angle. But I guess one of the unique what is it? Switch positions we're in because both our parents are artists. It's like, all right, well, maybe look at it from this other angle. Yeah. Maybe stand to the side, and maybe it's completely different than whatever else.
Yeah, I really have to thank my mentor, Chip Frazier, my high school teacher.
Yeah. Definitely changed you a lot.
Yeah, he was the ones that was like, hey, you know, what's to stop you from getting in a car and just driving and going somewhere and working in a diner? What's to stop you from doing that?
Yeah.
Why not? I was like, true. So I kind of took that concept with training, like, hey, what's stopping me from doing this?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, at the time, you know, when I first started, you were saying, like, you know, you're not going to stick to it.
Yeah, because one of the only things that was consistent about your past with fitness and all that was that you're inconsistent. I think a lot of people have that.
Yeah.
I mean, I had that. I would stick with something, I would get really into it, and I just didn't have the habits or disciplines, routines of it, and you figured those out pretty quick with
consistently inconsistent.
Yeah. That's a real common thread, I think, for a lot of people. If anybody's listening to that, it's like, yeah, you can switch it in a minute, and if it's just like habits. I know for me it was like 2 times a week for 6 months, and then all of a sudden I had a habit.
Well, yeah, and that was one of those things that like really ingrained it in me too, and I think a lot of the people we had to train with then, like back then when we were training at West Coast, like fucking Tony Ferguson was there.
Yeah. You
know, he just moved there shortly before we went to Thailand. He started training.
Yeah.
We also had, if you guys know boxing, we had now world famous trainer Robert Garcia holding pads for us twice a week. Sometimes I would show up and it would just be me, and he'd hold mitts for me, and that was part of like my membership at the time. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, you're the same Robert Garcia, used to be world champion, right? Yeah, that's me. This guy was like 30-1. You know, he lost to Diego Corrales. It was like, shit, I'm getting free one-on-one time with you? Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember that being like a big motivator for me too. Like the people I was around were very inspiring at the time. Some of them were doing like stuff with the Ultimate Fighter and whatnot too, when that was popping up. Going back over to Thailand, you know, when I was stuck there, you know, I had that moment where I was like, hey, this is what I really want to do. And my friend Roy got out of the ring. I didn't know what the result was then. He was fine. He was looking happy and had a beer in hand. So I was going to the ring. I remember I sealed the ring. I remember actually like praying to my head, like in the corner, like, oh God, don't get your ass kicked. You know, just try to relax. Okay, this corner, I want to make sure that I'm gonna hope that I'm safe at the end of this. Like I'm not gonna get majorly fucked up. And ended up fighting the guy, and they said he had around like 150, 200 fights, but he hadn't been training a lot, you know. But he's one of the guys that they'd put in the ring that if like you know, like a new fighter was coming through that wanted to get experience, like I was doing, that he would go step in the ring with him, and he would win sometimes. And so I got experience with him. I remember him kicking the shit out of my arm. My arms were like super swollen up, and he clinched me a couple times, and I remember like the corner saying, no clinch, no, like don't do that. And I remember just like, what? Like looking like I don't know what to do.
Good teeth.
Like, okay. So I just kept kicking as much as I could. And you know, I still hadn't found like my punching range and stuff. That I was throwing punches, but nothing like substantial. And those gloves were fucking falling apart. They're having us wear and shit too. It was fun, and you know, I remember like we only had like one round and half of the round because like the battery ran out of it. But I remember like, you know, I landed some good knees like from the outside. You know, I got, you know, the guy was around the same height as me, like maybe like 2 or 3 inches shorter than me. And I remember being able to knee him in the face once or twice, like straight up the middle. And I remember getting a lot of good kicks, like nothing for free, all those concepts and stuff too. And I just remember being super tired in the third round, and I remember thinking like, oh, I'd been here before through those rounds in the pads they put me through.
Yeah.
Because the first day, I didn't mention this in here, but the first day they had us to go through those fight pads like that, I threw up. I straight up threw up. And I wasn't eating much. I was super skinny, so I didn't have much to throw up. I just remember like hurting. And the trainer making fun of me and like making sissy motions with his hands on the pads and shit like that. Stuff that I do now to people. I'm like, making these sounds like with the fighters when they're like really exhausted.
Yeah.
It's more just like, hey, dude, like we've all been there.
It's funny, and it's tough love, and it's needed because a lot of our culture is really coddled. I know both of us got raised predominantly with a lot of influence from our mom. It was borderline like being raised by a single mother, which is a common problem for people not developing enough, you know, thick skin or toughness or mental toughness.
Yeah, it's like, we'll touch on that just a little bit. It's like, you know, as Janakwi would say, you know, don't have your mom and dad come to the fight. It's like, why? He's like, you see your mom, you're gonna be soft. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're gonna want to like cry or something. You don't know, like you don't know what's gonna do to your mental state. Yeah. So there's something to be said for that paternal instinct that you have with your parents, especially like when you're young. Came through on the fight. I remember pushing really hard on like the last round. I remember just kept moving forward, and you know they raised my hand and said I won. I'm like, fuck yeah! Like I remember them like the other guy being like, you know, just kind of like fucker, like, you know, because I need him in the head. I don't know, like they said you were allowed to do it, so but I think it was more like he thought he'd won by that point, and so I just kept pressing. I out cardioed him.
Gotcha.
Didn't out technique him. Yeah. You know, didn't out better basics, better balance, better clinch, none of that shit. I just out cardioed him, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. I'd been training for 1 year.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So you came back after your like just about 2 weeks and you doing your first fight, and then you came back to training. What was it? What happened after that?
I was on a pretty big high like afterwards because like everybody's like, hey dude, good job. Like, you know, I know like because if you guys knew me back then, you wouldn't look at me as somebody as a fighter. I was like maybe 130 pounds, 135 pounds walking around. You know, that's like, what, 62 kilos? Something like that? I think so. It's like 62 kilograms. I was walking around at that, and that was me, like, trying to gain weight. And I was a super shy kid, you know. I was just very, like, reserved to myself. So, like, a bunch of people didn't, like, expect that, you know, and I was stoked on it, and I kept up my training as much as I could, and I was training every day, and like I started training twice a day, and we did another smoker or two back home, and I just really tried to keep up that training as much as I could. And we were trying to get fights here. The gym we were at the time, you know, they were trying to get us fights, and they kept saying like, "Hey, we'll get you one." And I remember being told like specifically like, "You need to train harder." I'm like, "What the fuck? What do you mean train harder?" But when I look back on it. You know what I found out was they were trying to get us fights, but there wasn't a lot going on then, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that there wasn't a lot of fights going on. For all I knew, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah,
I just wasn't attached to that world, and neither was like the gym we were at the time, having that connection. Some of the smokers, yes, but most of them, no. But I found out later. Like I remember Fred sent me like an email chain of like back and forth from then, of them trying to get us fights for these guys who eventually started IFS, International Fight Showdown.
Gotcha.
It was these twins from Sit Ramasoon. They had a Muay Thai gym down there. I think it was in Glendale. And then Sean Chilati, who's still running it here in California. So if you guys haven't heard of IFS, International Fight Showdown, it's a promotion. They have it in Anaheim. The guy books like 30 fucking fights on it, all amateur. He does MMA now too. Mixed martial arts, amateur and mixed martial arts. He was doing some pro fights for a little bit too, but he stopped it. So as we came through and we came back, kept training, you know, honestly, like I felt like I burnt out. Like I was working, training, and there was no fights coming in, nothing. And I felt like I got put in a position of starting to help out with classes at that time.
Yeah.
I've been training probably about a year and a half, 2 years. And I started helping out with some of the classes, like if the trainer couldn't be there, or if he was out of town, needed me to cover, or whatever it may be. I was game because I wanted to do it. I was going to work out anyways. I was going to train.
Yeah.
And, I used to go there during the day and just kick the bag. I'd stay extra and just kick the bag, hit the bag, spar, do whatever I could just to train. And I trained with Fred as much as I could when he was down to train. And we couldn't get any fights. And I remember, fuck it. I guess I'm not going to do Muay Thai anymore. I guess I learned everything that I'm going to learn.
So we've read the 2-year point?
2-year mark.
That's funny.
So we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this in the last podcast.
Yeah.
2-year mark, man. And this is something I realized over time after teaching people that I'm like, oh shit, I went through this, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't other options at the time.
Yeah. So after that, you had you started training with Roy with Knockweed.
Yeah, it's a funny story about that. So this is how that happened. I know. So they had this Cambodian guy that started teaching at West Coast. His name was Bo. He ended up becoming a good friend of mine, Boren Kuhn. And he was teaching some stuff there, and he started going down to North Hollywood. They went to the Thai New Year festival that was in North Hollywood, and they had Muay Thai fights there. And Boren and Roy had seen a referee there, and they'd seen him at one of the other fights before, at Pachanga. And they asked him, hey, how do we get into the fights? And I guess he's like, hey, come. I should bring Roy on for this because he could describe it better. But I guess he was like, hey, come show me your Muay Thai. And Ashon Knockweed was teaching at House of Champions at the time, HOC. Anybody out there in Southern California, the House of Champions has been around a long time. He was teaching a program there, and I guess they went there, and he kind of chuckled at him. He's like, hey, I'm opening up a gym. You guys can come next week. It's not open yet, but you can come. So they were training down there with him, and I had stopped training essentially up here at the time, for maybe a month. And they're like, you have to come check this out. And I just remember making every excuse, I don't know if I want to do this, making excuses. I was young, 19 at the time. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be for me. I don't think I want to do Muay Thai anymore. Why would I go? Fast forward just maybe another month or so. One of the other guys that were training with Rick started going down there with them also. He's like, man, you really have to go. And we were at Coach Todd's pro debut. This was in Westlake. It's at the Marriott down there or something like that.
Is that an MMA fight?
Yeah, pro MMA fight. So it was his pro MMA debut. And we all met up there, and I remember we're all talking because we're all sitting together. And they're like, hey, Monday, let's go. We'll bring you. Dude, you have to go. You have way too much talent. You spent way too much time on this. You're young, dude. You need to do this. And I was just remember the first excuse I had was, oh, I don't have a car. And they're like, we'll pick you up. I'm like, well, what time does training start? They're like, well, it starts at 6. I'm like, well, I don't get off until 5, and we have to try this an hour, and I won't make it. They're like, we'll do the next class afterwards. We'll let them know we're going to be a little bit late. Okay. And then it was, the next excuse I had is, hey, I don't know if I have enough money to sign up. Like, hey, they have a free trial. And, hey, I don't know if I have food. Hey, don't worry, we'll grab food on the way. We're going to stop at 7-Eleven. Just every excuse I had in the book.
You guys are good friends.
Yeah, they said, fuck you. Yeah, Rick, then, that guy he's one of the people that was in there. Roy, too, at the time, was pulling from me, dude, you got to train. Yeah. Because we're all, we're training friends, it's dude, you got to train.
Yeah, it's if you guys don't know that, if anybody's listening who doesn't train, a lot of your training partners, the core group, become more like family than they are friends.
Yeah, they know they're like, hey, you can't stop training because that means that we lose you as a friend essentially because we know you're probably not going to see you again.
Yeah.
And for the most part, there's some exceptions to that, but at that time I was definitely done. I thought I was done with Muay Thai. And I went down there and I remember training, and the first thing Nakri did was he showed me some clinch stuff. I remember thinking holy shit, I know nothing.
You started over again.
And I remember I started over again, and I always wanted to learn clinching, and I couldn't find anybody to teach me fucking clinching down. I want to learn how to clinch. Yeah. How come I can't find a place? I was so confused. For anybody else out there that's how come I can't learn how to clinch? Let me just be very clear. So clinching is one of those things you have to learn by experience from somebody who really knows how to do it. If they don't really know how to do it and explain it, you gotta just go to Thailand or train with somebody who's spent a lot of time in Thailand and have them really just break down some of the basic drills that they do. and learn the balance of it. Because there is a process, like Knockweed had a process for it that I've never seen anybody else break down like that before. Ever. I've seen other processes that are really good that are out there, but the way he broke down clinching was like, it was no-brainer. You know, like a dummy could pick it up and start learning Muay Thai. Very beginner friendly. So I went down there and, you know, I think I went down there for like a week, and then I came back after like 2 weeks. I saved up some more money. I'm like, hey, I want to start training again. And I asked him, like, hey, can I start training? And I signed up at the gym with Ajahn Knockweed and his then wife, Robin. And I was carpooling down there with Roy, Rick. We had this guy, Kevin, that would also come down there with us. So we all just carpool all the time. Yeah. And next thing you know, we're going down there 4 or 5 days a week. Yeah. And Roy had 1 or 2 fights by that point, because he started training with them a little bit sooner, so he was like one of the first fighters that was there. Yeah. And like I really wanted to get in on that, so I was training a lot too with him. Yeah. And Roy's like, hey dude, like, I think he was dating, so I started seeing some girl down there at the time. He's like, hey, let's just move down here. Like, it'd be cheaper. I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. And I remember me and him got together and we wrote a plan. I still have the binder where I wrote down like plans of what could happen of me moving down there, like financially, for what I could do. I remember, like, I'm like, worst case scenario, sell my booty. Like, just as a joke, like, worst case scenario, figure something out, essentially. But it was like,
you ended up selling your blood platelets back then. I remember that.
Yeah. That was like one of those things that came in when I was training down there with Knockweed and living down there with Roy, my friend Roy Corona. Like, I started selling my blood platelets. I'll go every 3 weeks. The first time I went, they wouldn't take them because I was so low in iron. Shit. And that's when I found out I had some nutritional, like, I think they're gastrointestinal ones. That's when I started fucking with, like, I had a nutritionist who's like, hey, maybe you're gluten intolerant. So I started cutting. I only had like oats. That was my only gluten I had. And I started taking iron supplements and got my iron up. And I remember at that point, like, when we were training in Thailand, people were like, man, you're young, you shouldn't be tired. And I was tired all the time. Well, it turns out I was severely low in iron. I was like a 10.2 or something like that, or 9.2. I think the lowest you're supposed to be is at like a 12, or whatever that measurement is. I can't remember.
Gotcha.
But they wouldn't take blood platelets from me. They're like, no, you're dangerously low. We're going to give you iron supplements, and please stop and get more at the store on the way home. I'm like, fuck, I can't afford iron supplements, but okay. Yeah. And I remember taking those for like 3 weeks. I'm like, holy shit, I feel fucking good. Yeah. And like I cut out I started eating like a little bit differently. I was still eating very good, but I just cut out like bread and stuff like that. Yeah. And my recovery went through the roof. I remember being able to train like super intensely. And we got some fights going and went to Thailand a few more times with the gym, with Knockweed's gym. First time we went over there, we went to Fairtex. We got to train with some badasses at Fairtex. Yeah. And that time when we went to Fairtex, I found out that the trainer, Big Yak, that was training Yeltsin and all the other like champion Fairtex fighters at the time, he's known Knockweed since they were kids. Yeah. They trained at the same gym together. Gotcha. Like growing up. And they actually hired in pad trainers from Luke Prabat to train the champions at Fairtex. Luke Prabat being the gym that Knockweed was from. It was Luke Praboon at the time. And I was like, oh shit. And he's like, oh yeah, Knockweed's a good fighter. And then Mr. Wong came up to us, like, oh, you're Knockweed students. And if you guys don't know who Mr. Wong is, the dude is fucking like, you know, they have a saying in Thailand, they're like, oh, that guy's like mafia. But it's because if you have a lot of money, they say it's like mafia. Because if you have a lot of money, you have a lot of pull in the country. So I was like, oh shit. Like, if Mr. Wong's saying he was the right person to train with, I'm like, fuck, I found the right dude. Yeah. And, you know, he was saying good stuff about him too as a referee and when he was fighting as a kid. And I was like, okay, man, like, I'm with the right gym. And we came back from that trip. We trained there and at Sit Yel Tong. Shout out to Kru Walter. He gave us a hookup at Sit Yel Tong to be able to train there and get some decent training. I trained with Samart Pakaroon's trainer that was there at the time. Oh, man, I forget.
Who's this trainer?
I want to say his name was Kru Song. But he was missing his front teeth, old as fuck. Yeah. He's not there anymore.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. But he was Samart Pakaroon's trainer. And there was nobody there. All the fighters had gone to Singapore at that point to Evolve MMA when Evolve MMA was first starting. Okay. So, if you guys don't know what Evolve MMA is, they're fucking huge now. Singapore gym, a super team of like MMA fighters. And the guy who owns Evolve, Chatri Sit Yel Tong, he's the one that he's the CEO of ONE FC.
Gotcha.
So Chatri had just moved over there and started bringing these fighters over there from the gym he grew up in, from his dad. And that's when Ajahn Yotong was still at Yotong before he passed away. And we were clinching in the ring with one of the fighters, and he came over and showed us some shit. Like, hobbled over, he had a cane and stuff like that, and he showed us some stuff. And I just remember being super grateful for that. We got a picture with him and stuff too in front of the statue that was there. Some of the other fighters that were there at the time. Now I'm fuck, I'm glad my friends made me take that picture because I didn't like taking pictures back then.
Yeah, now you realize it's really important.
I'm oh shit, I have a picture with this Muay Thai legend. Literally, that guy helped so many people.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the influences that came in off of me is that I knew his story from watching Muay Thai documentaries. I really learned a lot about him. There's a documentary called Born for the Fight. It's on YouTube. It's free. Again, Born for the Fight. I can link it. I meant to have my notebook so I can write some notes about what I put in the show notes. But I'll put it in the show notes. I won't forget. If I do, send me a DM. I'll make sure to get it up there. It's a fucking good documentary. But I learned about him and how much he'd helped orphan kids. He got kids off the street from sniffing glue, doing drugs, drinking, prostitution, human trafficking, drugs, all that stuff, drug
all
trafficking.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, he got these kids off the street and turned them into champions.
Yeah.
And I thought that is a humanitarian service.
100%.
Essentially, because he made these guys into champions, and then now they're getting sent overseas to his son's superstar gym in Singapore. If you guys don't know, Singapore is a very wealthy country, very well off. So these guys were going to be essentially set if they're doing well. Yeah. And now they have ONE FC and they can fight internationally. How fucking cool is that? And they become these cool international trainers that evolve and you go train with them. I think that guy was what's his name, Shane Faison, the Fight Tips. He went over there to go train with Pet Bunchu and Same and all these guys. Legit A-class Muay Thai fighters they have teaching there. So, and then let me be clear about this too. Some of those fighters are some of the worst trainers. Yeah, you can learn a lot by training with them, but you don't want to have them hold pads for you. They're not pad men or anything like that.
Gotcha, because it's a different thing to
different skill set for sure.
To be able to explain it.
Big Yak, the guy who's the pad holder for Yalton Clay. He has gigantism, so he's a big guy, so you can kick the shit out of him on the pads. So you end up becoming a good pad holder, but Thai people don't have, not everybody has gigantism. They can't, he couldn't fight.
Yeah.
So he became a really good trainer. And I guess, and the same thing with Knockweed. He's heavier for a Thai person, he's 160 pounds. It's couldn't fight a lot after his teens. So, again, goes into being a trainer, essentially. And going through that path of moving down to North Hollywood and stuff too, that whole lead up into it, coming up on an hour, able to squeeze in an hour. Damn, that's pretty good. It's been we skipped over some stuff, but
we did.
Yeah.
But as far as training, you were there for you lived in North Hollywood where you almost
2 years?
exclusively did that. Where that's all you did. You trained other people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When I was living in North Hollywood, I was living a block away, 2 blocks away from the gym. So I was the Johnny on the spot guy of Kru Dan Mayed, my friend Kru Dan. If he needed help covering one of his fitness classes or beginners classes, or if Knockweed needed a Johnny on the spot, someone who's in town needed me to cover a class, he would shoot me private lessons, have me do private lessons for people. And when I wasn't training, I was learning how to teach. So I would just go in and just watch him how he make corrections and stuff. I became obsessed with Muay Thai and how he fixed me. And I wanted to learn that shit too. I'm this is powerful stuff. There's something to it. Because no one ever made this kind of corrections that he did on me, ever. The stuff that we teach our students, no one ever told me that because the lack of knowledge was there. And I think part of it is, one, he came from a place that makes really good teachers and good fighters. 2, he also speaks English well enough to describe the small intricacies of clinching, balance, where to put your hands. This is why you should do this. This is why you don't want to do this. This is when you want to do this. This is when you don't want to do this. So rather than just go, do this, and why? And they just kind of look at you because they don't speak English. Yeah,
but he's also very good at explaining stuff, just showing you in a way that, by being there, because he is such a great trainer, to, show you, I remember clinching with him for the first time, and I just got schooled. Of course got schooled, but I, spent more time with him.
I remember throwing you and you're like,
3 times, and I remember me accidentally, hitting my head on a pole, and he felt super bad. I was it happens, whatever. But then I spent a bit more time, and it started what he was trying to convey to me is to not overthink. And if you miss something, don't dwell on it, just go on the next. Mm-hmm. But instead of explaining it, he just showed me in a way to where it just drilled into my head. And it was almost like he was communicating at like a telepathic level.
Yeah. Well, man, so that was my thing too. I want to train with him every single day. So I would train 2 days. I would get up. I would go run super early at the park over there off Tahunga in North Hollywood. I would go run, for like an hour and a half, like jog. Go back home. I would eat from the groceries that my blood platelets paid for.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I would go. I would relax a little bit. I would do some work online, and then I would go over to the gym and I would go train, take his 10 a.m. class, whatever you get the time, and then stay after and get to spar and clinch with him. If I didn't get to spar and clinch with him, I would spar and clinch with some of the students, or I would go home, do the bag, and then I would do some work during the day. And then I'd go back in the afternoon, or if I had a private, or if they need help at the gym, I would help out where I could.
Yeah.
And then I would come back in the afternoon, come train, help do intros, and watch Nakri teach, train, spar, and we'd be there. I'll get there at like 4:30, and we'd leave at like 11. I would like very rarely eat the whole time. I would just train. So. They had showers and stuff there, so it made it easier and everything like that too.
Yeah, because you were essentially living at the gym.
Yeah, pretty much. Like there was nothing at home. It would be super hot in North Hollywood. It would get up to like 110 degrees. So if you guys aren't familiar, and we had a big heat wave then. I think that's around like 35 degrees Celsius.
In NoHo.
Yeah, or like 36. Yeah, North Hollywood. So the gym had AC. Our home did not, and it was very, very fucking hot.
Yeah.
Stuffy apartment. So I just spent as much time as I could there. Kept fighting. Nakri started having some promotions and stuff too. And I thought that was definitely where I got to make some of my networking connections too. Because I was again, Johnny on the spot. It's like, hey, can you pick these people up from the airport? Sure. Give me the keys to the car. I'll go pick these people up from the airport.
And one time it was Sanchai.
Yeah, we're picking up like Sanchai, picking up Johnson on Fairtex. You're picking up like Boonkurd, like all these like very famous guys in Muay Thai in the U.S. and internationally too. Simon Marcus, Matt Embry, like the first time they came over here, me and Roy picked them up from the airport. And this is before Simon Marcus fought like Cal Cly and Joe Schilling. And it was like Simon Marcus was like, oh, I'm gonna fight this guy. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? How come I don't know who he is? What the fuck? Like I was so confused because I was literally obsessed with Muay Thai. But it just shows you that back then stuff still wasn't all put up online.
Yeah.
So
very esoteric.
Yeah, and sure enough, a year later, he was like fighting Cal Cly and Joe Schilling. It was like that's when that stuff started. That was for stand-up promotions. Yeah, the first time Sanchai ever came to North America, it was through Knockweed's promotion, stand-up promotions at the time, and I got to help present the belts like at weigh-ins and stuff like that too, and just help arrange some of that stuff. Roy fought on that one.
Yeah.
He fought on the undercard for that one as an amateur. Jason Andrade was out there. If you guys pro fighter out of Las Vegas, Andrade Muay Thai. If you guys are ever in Vegas, go check him out. There's also David Huerta, who's fighting out there. Also, he fought against Jason Andrade at that time. David Huerta's got an awesome gym down in LA called Los Angeles Muay Thai. He fought on the IFMA team in Pan Am's. And he's also had a couple of fighters that go through IFMA and pro fighters too. Like, our students fight each other now. Like, our student Christian Hernandez, our old former student Christian, fought. Christian was my top student at the time, and this guy Lance Dixon, David's top student at the time. They both fight for titles. It was like it was funny to see that progression because we're all sparring partners. Yeah. It's like, okay, now our students are fighting each other. It's it was funny.
The progression of stuff.
Yeah, well, they were the main event guys.
Yeah.
It was like those are the main event guys. So, seeing that kind of play down was pretty cool. And then there was like who else fought on that card? There was some big names. Shayna Blonsky fought on that. Went on to the K1 Glory. Brian Dobler was supposed to fight on that against Shayna Blonsky. Yeah, Shayna Blonsky didn't fight on that one. That's right. Because Brian was, I think he was battling Lyme's disease. I think that's when that first fucking fucked him up. Don't quote me on that, Brian. Actually, Brian, if you're listening to this, don't quote me on that. I'd love to have you on, man. But I remember Coke Fairtex was going to step in last minute and fight Shayna Blonsky, but Shane only had like 1 or 2 pro fights. And they're like, okay, this guy has 150 pro fights. First guy, like the athletic commission said no to it. But he was ready to go. He's like, oh, I'm just here to help corner. But yeah, I'll fight.
Oh, wow.
And then Tetsuya Yamato fought against Sanchai at the time. I didn't really know who Tetsuya was. I just knew he was like a K1 champion.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
Well, he's like I think that was at the beginning of his career because he was 23, I think, at the time, and he ended up becoming like he beat Kevin Ross. Like he's beaten like the who's who in Muay Thai also now, because he really developed into a very strong fighter. Because he was very skinny, then he put more muscle mass. His training development and stuff. That guy really shot up as well. I'll make sure to tag all these people on their Instagrams in the show notes too, because you guys should definitely go follow them, because they're part of like the Muay Thai history and stuff like that in the world, essentially. But going back to like the promotion stuff too, I just remember like getting to watch Saenchai fight, and Kao Klai fought in that one too. He fought against Magnum Sakai, also from Japan.
How'd that go?
Well, let me preface this. So Kao Klai and Saenchai were both eating buckets of KFC 2 days before weigh-ins. And then they ran off all the weight, made weight. Saenchai won, I think it was first round head kick. Totally just put Tetsuya out. I saw the kick, but I didn't see it. I was looking right at him like, what did I miss?
Yeah.
What was it? And then Kao Klai ended up, I think it was third round or fourth round, KO or TKO with an elbow, and I remember it slashed Magnum from like the top left of his forehead down his face over the bridge of his nose to his right cheekbone.
We got like a Sagat scar.
Yeah, and he had to have like, I remember him being at the after party and just having this big bandage across his face like that.
Damn.
Yeah, and it was bad.
Clearly.
Yeah, he was in pain, and that dude was taking punishment, not showing pain. It was like, oh, this dude, that looked like it hurt.
Saenchai, how does one prepare for a fight with Saenchai? Do they just go to like a temple and pray for 2 weeks?
Hey, you gotta go back and listen to. Do you listen to the podcast I had with Christian Pastore from Argentina?
Not yet.
Okay, he fought Saenchai.
That's right.
And he's only been doing Muay Thai for 6 years. So go back and listen to that. So if anybody on here wants to answer that question, go listen to that podcast. I want to say it's episode number 7 or 6, Christian Pastore. But go back and listen to that. I think who documented the process very well was Kevin Ross when he prepared for Saenchai. He talked about his progress when he was training with Mark Beecher for that one. I don't know if he was cross-trained with CSA at the time. But shout out to my friend Mark Beecher. I'd love to have you on here, man. You're freaking awesome. I'm stoked that Texas is able to start opening up their Muay Thai academies and stuff out there. So, and shout out to Hyena Muay Thai. If you guys want to go check them out too, they're great people out in Texas. But yeah, Mark was training Kevin Ross at the time, and I think it was training out of like a Tough gym. It's just called Tough.
Okay, I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, and or something like that. I can't remember. That's a long time ago. It's 10 years ago. Over 10 years.
So lockdown.
Yeah.
When is the academy going to be able to be reopened again?
Oh man. Well, let's finish up this topic real quick. We can pick up back on this on the topic of like the Muay Thai development, how Pu'u Muay Thai came to be, because that's essentially like some of the building blocks that came into it. Eating the perennial shit sandwich. With those promotions too, what was cool is I got to fight on them also. Yeah. Sometimes I was helping, driving people around and also fighting. And helping teach and stuff too at the time, and I'm forever grateful for those opportunities that Muay Thai School USA gave to me.
Yeah, the ground floor, when it's completely unheard of almost in the US still.
And not only that is like they were doing some groundbreaking shit and no one fucking cared.
Yeah.
Only if you did Muay Thai. Now like the whole MMA world, combat sports world knows who fucking Saenchai is.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's like everybody's Saenchai. I'm like, yeah, dude. So like, we're talking about Kevin Ross and them like. Nakri gave me the shorts that Saenchai wore when he fought against Kevin Ross here for the first ever WBC Muay Thai Diamond Belt.
Yeah.
Like, I fought on that show, too. And, I have those shorts. Like, I have them on the board ready to go to be displayed at the academy and stuff, too, with the pictures from that time.
Yeah.
But, to kind of close that chapter before, like, you moved back up, like, our mom started, like, I was really unhappy down there. I got in a really dark place mentally. Roy moved in with his girlfriend at the time. We had another roommate, great guy, but he had a dog in our apartment. We weren't supposed to have a dog in the apartment. Our property manager at the time was the kind of person that would come over and, like, go knock on the door. Hey, can I come in and see this? Just because we were friendly with them. And I'd be like, no. And I remember just feeling, like, really weird about it.
Yeah, put you in a strange spot.
Yeah, because it's like... and it'd be really hot. I'd come home and the dog would shit itself all over like the carpet. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, but I remember like your personality before, and then after being in North Hollywood, you said you were in a really dark place, but you were a lot different as a person after.
Yeah,
that.
I developed myself a lot because I was trained all the time. I met some really fucking awesome people.
Yeah.
One of them trains with us at the academy, Brian King.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys. I saw him lose a fuck ton of weight. That guy lost like around 100 pounds also.
That guy's scary.
He's one of my main training partners also when we were there. Like, he's trained with that guy all the time. I love that guy. For those of you that don't know him, if you know him, like, you don't utilize him as a resource enough, so he loves everybody. He just doesn't like to talk.
Yeah, he's very conservative with his speech, and he's leg kick you with 1% and it'll hurt somehow.
Oh. So, he's one of those guys that came up like through Generation Zero with knockweed too.
Yeah.
So, we ended up moving back. Mom had her thyroid cancer stuff going on.
Yeah.
Her health issues. And I was like, you know what? I can move back up here and I can still make training happen somehow. And we'll get into that segment at a different time. But I remember like telling my roommate at the time, like, hey man, I think I need to move. I need to move back. And then he was like, oh fuck. I'm like, don't worry, it's not like immediately. Like, let's give it like just like 2 more months and like I'm done here. Like, get out for a month at least. So we'll leave. We'll connect back onto that on another day to continue on to that story.
Part 2.
Yeah, on to part 2 of the Pu'u Muay Thai story. I guess what we can call that. So you're asking about the academy when we could reopen.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's listening out there, Ventura County is part of the statewide lockdown. We've been talking with the local government, our mayor, city council, about how we can safely reopen. I literally first few weeks I was emailing them almost every day. Our parents are business owners in town and stuff too. Our stepmom owns, and our dad owned a business in downtown, a retail shop. Employ over 50 people. Yeah, and including like the people in Bali and stuff too. They employ, and our mom's self-employed photographer, wedding photographer, portrait photographer. You're employed through the academy and stuff too.
And through her.
Yeah, and through our mom as a contractor, and I'm employed through the academy exclusively. That's my main thing, and same thing with Coach Ryan up in Santa Barbara. His main thing is Pu'u Muay Thai Santa Barbara. So for me, I take this shit seriously.
Same.
Yeah, and when this lockdown stuff happened, like I was looking at the guidelines that they're talking about implementing, like just for like sanitary, and I wrote like a whole COVID-19 protocol over at muaythaiventura.com on the blog, and I said this before and I'll say it again, is a lot of the protocols that they have are protocols we already had standing, and they have been literally written on the wall of the academy for over a year now. We had like a poster printed out in giant letters. Yeah. Right in the waiting area.
On the left side, yeah.
Yeah. Also, students get those hygienic practices when they first enroll as students at the academy. They get an email, and they get follow-up emails after they've been there for a few months too about it to remind them, as well as instructors reminding people during our hygiene week and stuff like that too.
Bring extra shirts, bring a towel.
Make sure you guys, not wearing shoes on the mat. If you're going outside the academy, wearing shoes or slippers. Wear slippers when you go to the restroom. Wear a clean shirt after every class.
For you guys who don't know it, my brother is like an absolute germaphobe stickler before all this stuff. So it's funny because of social perception and all that. We're having to reiterate a lot of what's already going on. Yeah, and it's already been very proactive. You go to a lot of other gyms. It's like
and this is where it comes. It's really great though, because this is the beauty of social media. I can go back and reference these posts from 3 years ago.
Yeah, true.
That's like, hey, look, this is me from 3 years ago saying that we require all this stuff, that we provide sanitary wipes for everybody to wipe down their equipment before and after training. Yeah. Not for just our equipment, but their equipment as well. We started the towel thing. We started requiring that last year. On our rules for people to have.
You have a few different things for fluids for people that get injured. Oh, of course, you got that.
Well, and then and we have hand sanitizer. Yeah, that we have at the front too.
But right next to that, for people that are struggling and sparring and crying, they also do. You have a little bit of an extra stash of Vagisil right next to that.
Yes, there is a stash of that. But also, there's a body waste disposal kit. Of course, Josh trying to make a joke about that we like to make with the fighters. Somebody. if you're a fireman, just ask me about it. I can tell you about it in person. But going over into like the hygienic practices, like last year too, we got an ozonator on recommendation of this guy, Master Chung Park. He's a bunch of these Taekwondo academies, and everybody always comments about how great his academy smells. And he's like, hey, this is the secret. It's an ozonator. It kills bacteria, viruses, and it's antimicrobial for the air and for sediment that sets into your academy.
Yeah.
And it literally kills everything in the air and the surfaces. Just by having it on. We've had that on all last year.
Yeah.
We turn it on all night.
So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is you're way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Now everybody's going, oh, let's flatten the curve. You're already a year out ahead before anything happened.
Man, last year, over the years, like, just teaching kids, anybody that's, like, teaches kids, like, not just in martial arts setting, but, like, school setting, like, you get sick. Because kids carry germs.
Yeah.
Bottom line, like, they rub their nose, it's cute as hell, but it's also gross, because they're, like, sneezing into their hands, touching things, putting their hands in their mouth, whatnot.
I've gotten sick very, very rarely from the kids at the academy.
Yeah, well, I've had these protocols in place.
Yeah.
So, once I'm like, hey, I have employees, like, I want to make sure I take care of my team.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the cleaning and sanitizing, we clean and sanitize the mats sometimes upwards of 4 times a day.
A lot of times.
Yeah, we vacuum, we clean and sanitize after morning sessions, after the 6 a.m., then it's after the morning chunk of classes, in between the kids' after the kids' classes, before the adults, and then at the end of the day. And vacuum. And then we were wiping down the surfaces and stuff like that, too, with not hand sanitizer, with Lysol. We weren't drinking Lysol. But going into, like, cleaning up the bathrooms, all the surface areas and everything too, using clean mop heads every single time we used it. Like, man, our place is fucking clean. I also have these professional floor cleaners that come in and clean the tatami surface and the mats with a steam cleaner and a pressure washer.
Like once a year, or what is it?
No, I do it. I was doing it every quarter.
Oh, wow.
And that's expensive. That's like $1,400.
It's a good amount of money.
Quarter, yeah. But the thing is, that comes into the health and safety of our students.
Yeah.
Because if you have a sick student, they fall off, you know, it's hard to get them back in.
Definitely.
Yeah, like those habits, you know, you said with me, the only thing I was consistent with was being inconsistent.
Yeah, which so many people can relate to. And that before martial arts or Muay Thai, that's how it was for me, with the exception of running for a little bit. But
yeah.
I was like 29 before I got stuck with it.
Yeah. So, you know, along with that, like our whole front desk, like, it's funny, they're like, oh, you have to have these cleaning protocols. I'm like, cool, sweet, I already have them. Our whole front desk has a daily to-do list. They have, there's like 4 columns, or no, I think there's 5 or 6 columns, and everybody that comes in that day to work has to check it off.
Yeah.
Every single person, whether they're just in there for 3 hours or they're in there for 8 hours, 10 hours, they have to check off the list that they did these things.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, wiping down surfaces, the high contact areas that we have. And there's, you know, checking and cleaning the bathroom, sanitizing the mats, vacuuming the mats, cleaning the windows, cleaning the handles, cleaning the waiting area, cleaning the floors in the waiting area.
There's always cleaning
the mats.
going on.
Yeah, it's constant.
Yeah.
So, like, that's one of those things my front desk, I'm like, yo, you're front desk people, but you're also going to be cleaning a lot, so you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody contributes.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that comes down to it is, like, you know, I was talking to some counsel, and he's like, you have to make sure people are accountable. I'm like, dude, I made sure we were doing weekly meetings. I would go through, and I would have our office admin, Jessica, go through it on Saturday, like, tell me everybody that didn't get checked off, things that didn't get checked off, and bring it up on Monday.
Gotcha.
And find out what happened.
So you have a lot of cleaning protocols and procedures that have been in play for a good while. And then so, with that said, when are you going to be able to legally run your small business? Because we know Target, Walmart, all these major businesses, they're deemed essential, and martial arts gyms non-essential.
We're non-essential. We're essentially non-essential. So, you know, I don't have an answer. Because, like, you know, for me, I've been reaching out to the government. Our local government wants to open up, but essentially right now, as it stands, you know, let me just be clear. If you're choosing to shelter in place, and I've said this since the beginning, I 100% respect that. If that's your choice to do that, please, we had our online course, me and you recorded for everybody. We got on that before we were mandated to close down. The week before, we had that shit up.
Yeah.
Me and Coach Ryan got in, and we started doing the online class before anybody did.
What makes one of us that respects that? Because I want people to here's my spiel on it. The amount of mental health stuff that's going to be weighing on you as a result of not training, if you're not training. If you're by yourself and you're still training, cool, I respect that. But you have to take into account how much this financial thing is hurting people mentally and how many things are going wrong in society that are not being accounted for. Mm-hmm. And all the domestic violence that's maybe not even being accounted for. The people not going to hospitals because they're afraid they're going to get something.
Man, like what I was afraid, man. I got fucking. If you guys don't know, I got attacked by a dog.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I was like, fuck, I gotta go to the hospital during fucking coronavirus. Like that was the last thing I wanted to do, and I'm not worried about this shit.
Yeah.
I'm a healthy individual. I got a strong immune system.
Same.
So, but that was my first worry. Like, fuck, they're gonna have to test me to go in there and all this bullshit. Luckily, I was able to go to urgent care. Yeah. And they just do a temperature check, and I passed that. Yeah. But like, I had anxiety about that, and I had to go there to go get patched up. Yeah. You know? And that's like definitely a mental health thing for a lot of people. And like I've been trying to figure out ways. Like I've been talking to local government. Like, hey, if I do this, can I open up? I've been saying my procedures because the thing is, a lot of the procedures they're putting out there for like, hey, this is what gyms or like these businesses are gonna have to do. It's stuff that I'm already doing. Yeah. So like, why can't I just open and make things even say like, if you want me to have distancing and do bad classes only. You linked me to Bedros Keuilian, the founder, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. Shout out to Bedros Keuilian. That guy is
legit leader.
He got on Fox News and he talked about his protocols. Business, right? Fox Business. Yeah. To talk about his train in place protocols. And I've been listening to that guy's story because he started his franchise during the 2008 recession, and he's been successful since. So, and me and Kevin talked about this a little bit the other day. It was like, making it through this, like we're gonna make it through this. One of the things too, it's the benefit of it. I'm gonna continue doing virtual training. Yeah. We're gonna keep that up. We have our online, our 8-week course, our online course. If anybody is out there wants to check that out, you can check it out at pmtlifestyle.com. Again, that's pmtlifestyle.com. Just click the 8-week course and you can get on there. $7 for a 1-week trial. And after that you can choose your different enrollment options. But it's like there's so many different opportunities that came out of this.
True.
And one of the things that was as a business owner is figuring out like what like everybody is affected differently by this. Like we've talked to some people. We had some people who had family members pass away and they couldn't be in the hospital with them.
Yeah, that's fucked.
And like because of this, they're not allowed to. And you have people who lost their jobs and they don't have any income. You have, other business owners that train with us that they're some of the first people like, hey, dude, I need to leave. I was like, I totally get it. Yeah. Because I'm a business owner too. Yeah. So one of those things that like I've been really trying to do is, I wouldn't say put pressure on our local government to open up because you saw a lot of stuff like counties talking about not wanting to obey our governor's orders.
They're tyrannical orders, yes.
Yeah, so
they're constitutionally illegal.
Yeah, and it's like, the way I feel, without getting too political, is like people who are doing this stuff. Like I said, I respect everybody's opinions on this. Like if you want to shelter in place, if you want to be outside, I respect it 100%. If you're not trying to hurt somebody, you're not intentionally hurting somebody, you're intentionally trying to hurt somebody. And it's everything to do with your, human right of freedom of movement. Cool.
Your body, your choice.
Exactly. So, when it comes in, that's my opinion on it, and how I feel about it. And for me, by this point, we've been hurt financially so much with the academy that, like, for me, wanting to open up has nothing to do with money, and it has everything to do with some of our students' mental health. I know some students that have relapsed. I know some students who are former veterans that suffer from depression, and they tell me how much this helps them. So, like, opening on small groups where you can only have 5 people there, and we're distanced and we're practicing on bags separately. And, like, I've thrown out the idea of getting, like, the UV light. It's, like, basically something that sanitizes the air through our HVAC system. It's expensive as fuck, but I'm like, dude, if I need it for these people, I'll get it. I don't care. Yeah. we got a new foot sanitizing station and stuff like that too, which I eyeballed before.
Yeah.
Works good if people wear like boxing and wrestling shoes.
Yes.
You can sanitize those even better now too, rather than just wiping them down. When you enter and exit the mat. We're putting in another hand sanitizing station, like at the bathroom. We're having another hand sanitizer. I'm implementing some of Bedros Keuilian's protocol he has for Fit Body Boot Camp in regards to like being responsible for wiping down the bathroom when you're in it and stuff like that too. And in limiting the amount of people that are in there right now, which sucks because it's like we're not gonna be able like I put a survey out for our students, and if you guys got it and you're listening to this, please just answer it. It's 100% anonymous unless you guys choose to put your name on it. We were talking about it before. We had somebody ask, "Is it really anonymous?" Yes, guys. So because some of the questions on there is stuff like, "Hey, are you gonna be training with us in the next 18 months?" Because I foresee this financial impact lasting over 18 months for what's going on right now. So I want to make sure that's like, if we have to downsize into a smaller place for the people that are still with us.
Yeah.
I had to pivot into something else for those people and make sure that we have an academy 2 years, 10 years from now.
Yeah, because right now you're being deemed illegal.
Yeah, if I open up, it's illegal. So...
upside down land.
Yeah, well, it's like, I talked with the mayor and like, he's like, hey, I understand because zoning and code enforcement and whatnot. He's like, I have a business and I lost 50% of our income. And I'm like, well, but also, sir, like, all due respect, you also get a check from the city for being mayor.
Yeah.
So, like...
different perspective.
Yeah, different perspective. And, like it's messy. It's a messy situation. I know that like our mayor, I know he wants to try to figure out a way to open up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, essentially, our county right now, from my understanding, I'm not a politician, not an epidemiologist, I'm not a biologist, none of that shit. All I know is that, from my understanding, is that if the county doesn't obey the governor's orders about how to open up, what's going to happen is they can take away any federal disaster relief funding that the county would get, which could bankrupt our county, and then that would thus make no businesses really exist.
Might this event bankrupt our county anyways?
I don't know. But like I said, I'm not an economist or anything like that. I don't want to get into that stuff, but like literally I'm trying to do everything I can to open up. I've emailed our congressman, I've emailed the state. I'm doing all this stuff to try to figure this out, guys. And so a lot of people are like reaching out and like, oh, like we feel so sorry for you. Hey man, don't feel bad for me. I don't feel bad for me. I'm not. And then they're like, hey, don't worry. I'm not worried. Because I know this stuff's gonna pass. We're gonna be there in some capacity, no matter what, once this is over. If you guys are out there and you want to support, man, if you listen to this podcast, leave a review on Spotify, leave a review on iTunes, share it with your friend. Buy some merchandise. We have our online drop shipping stuff that we're doing right now. If you can continue paying something for your tuitions, continue paying too. That helps. If you don't have money, free stuff, iTunes, leave a review on iTunes, leave a review on Spotify, leave a review on our Google Maps for Santa Barbara and Ventura, because we've had, I don't know if you know this, Josh, I think I might have told you, we've had thousands of people come through our doors in Ventura.
Yeah, I am well aware of that.
And, our goal is to always have, like, awesome experience for people. If you've been there, please leave a review on our Google page. Pu'u Muay Thai's Google page. Leave a review. Because that stuff matters. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I know them. Everybody knows them. Yeah, you might know us, but other people moving to the area or looking for facilities to train at or these virtual programs, they don't know us. So they want to figure out a way for us to be able to train. Okay? So... those are some free ways to do it. Just sharing it. Interact on our social media at Pu'u Muay Thai. Tag us in your stuff when you wear your shirts or when you're training at home. That's like a grassroots way to keep the academy alive and the academy spirit alive. Yeah, I'm just forever grateful for all the students that have come through the doors throughout the years. No matter what happens in this, I had a lot of people like, "Hey, Kru Jonathan, I'm sorry I had to cancel." I'm like, "Hey, man, I totally get it. Like, there's no bitter beer face. There's no me being mad. Nothing like." This affects people in so many different ways. And the reality we're faced with right now is, like, the one I'm faced with is going to be completely different than the person next to me. And
potentially.
Yeah.
Except right now, we're impacted very similarly.
Yeah. Me and you. But the thing is...
for people listening.
For people listening at home or anything like that, any students, current, former, past, present, future... I don't take it personal.
I miss all you guys, and for any of you guys training homies are here, you guys are more fam than friends. We sweat together, we've bled together, borderline cried together.
I want to give a shout out to one of our students, Heather Rudo. She's been helping share a lot of her stuff on social media to her friends and stuff like that. She bought like a bunch of gifts to people, like shirts and stuff like that for her friends. Awesome. She's been trying to give them some intros to get them in on like virtual training. So shout out to Heather. We really appreciate people like you and the support that you've been given. I've done a private lesson. We need to schedule another private lesson on Zoom. And she came in and did the work, and and the people that are in our Zoom classes, there's a bunch of you that are on there and a bunch of you that are supporting the academy. And I know I've written some notes for some of you guys, and you share those on social media, and you didn't need to do that, but I'm grateful for all of you, and for all the times that we've had at the academy and continue to grow. It's funny, I had made a joke on social media that worst case scenario, I moved back to Norway.
Yeah.
But I guess it got misconstrued. People, I don't know. I put like a chili face emoji, like man, I'm not moving to Norway, man. But my wife is from there.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, like worst case scenario, like that's what I would do.
Yeah, but right now, if you say anything about anything, people's imaginations are running wild with conspiracy theories, any number of things. I'm even a little.
Well, maybe I'm moving to Norway to install 5G.
Oh yeah. But I keep hearing Bill Gates online. He's getting smashed.
Oh
People are
man,
hating him. Like he's trying to kill us all.
Oh man, it's crazy. Meanwhile, I'm on Windows 10 right now. But
yeah.
I guess as soon as we can open, guys, you're gonna be the first to know. And things are gonna be a little bit different when we first open up. But I hope we can get back to what we were doing or something close to it. And I really feel like the training online has been really beneficial. I actually learned that. I talked to Kevin about this. Technology is amazing when it comes into coaching. Be able to do a ton of stuff with it I didn't expect. And that's what I learned from this. So.
Very cool. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it about there. Yeah. And we don't have an official date for you guys if you didn't catch that. We still do not know. There's no definitive answer.
Yeah.
But Jonathan's being as proactive as possible through it. And not waiting for somebody to tell him what to do, because I think that's going to be the main message for you guys listening, is that we're not going to be told with it. It's you guys, the community is going to have to be proactive as possible, connect and figure it out.
And even the places that are being allowed to reopen, some of the gyms are choosing not to open because they're like, it's going to change in 2 days.
Yeah, true.
So like some of the places, I think it was like Utah, they were allowed to open, and I was talking to a martial arts school owner, and they didn't open right away because 2 days later they changed new protocols, and how they kept the protocols they had in place first, they actually would have been in violation and could have been fined.
So weird.
And their employees could have filed a suit with OSHA against them.
So sketchy.
So people don't understand the employer liability stuff too. It's like, hey, if I reopen, it might just be me and you, and like my wife, because of the employer stuff.
Yeah, because you don't have to worry about people getting too happy, because in California we love to sue and take advantage of the legal system here. I slipped on a banana peel and now you're going to pay for it.
Well, I mean, I think that's what's great about martial arts. It teaches that personal responsibility stuff too.
Definitely.
So going into that, but like, like my team, if you're listening to this, man, I want you guys back so bad. I freaking miss all our coaches, our front desk team. I loved everybody. We're really getting ready to rock and roll at that place.
A real good team finally happened. After, you read that book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I read that book. It changed my life.
Yeah, it wasn't just that.
It was a combination.
It was a piece of it.
For sure, though.
Yeah.
Important piece.
And if anybody out there is like a management position, check that out. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I can't remember who it's written by. But great book. It's easy to read too. I think it's like 200 pages.
Less than 200.
Yeah, like 150 or something, 175. And part of like those 175 pages, whatever, are worksheets. So definitely go check that out if you guys are on here and you're just in like work leadership position, or even if you have a family and you're having some family issues, like big family issues. Those kind of things can help you troubleshoot that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're trying to figure out a way. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of these people, like Bedros Keuilian, he's realizing that we can't let the government set the protocols for what we're going to do, because they're going to be unrealistic. Yeah. We need to set realistic expectations in order to be able to have people still be able to train. Because some of the stuff, they're not going to think about it. His big push that he had was, hey, the boutique fitness in like martial arts places are different than a 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness.
Clearly.
Yeah, and to push them to be separately categorized, like maybe we become late phase 2 is what they would call it, or early phase 3. So keep my fingers crossed on that, guys. So thanks for the time today, bro.
Peace out.
Boom. All right, everybody. Again, don't forget to leave a review here on Spotify or on iTunes, wherever you're listening. Drop us a line over at Pu'u Muay Thai on Instagram. Don't forget to check out PMT Lifestyle. We have some pre-sale stuff. At Coach Ralph, you made the Pu'u Tasso shirts. I know you dug those, huh?
Never dug.
Some cool colors too, like red, gold, black.
It's funny.
Sick tank tops. Yeah.
We need more laughter at this period of time.
Yeah,
Too much seriousness.
All right, bro. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Everybody have a great day.